Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, October 6th. It's a huge week. There's about 600 titles coming out this week. I got 16 on the list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. Make sure you go check them out. There's links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that we put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you go check all that out. Of course, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a little thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, it's an absolutely massive week for new releases. About 600 titles coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 16 on the show today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up this week. I will say that there's a bunch of Rhino Rocktober stuff that's coming out that I'm not going to talk about on the show today. I did a whole separate video a week or so back on those releases, so go back and check that one out. And so for this week, typically what I do is I'll put links down below for everything that I talk about on the show. But for today, because there's so many great releases coming out, if you go down into the comments for the video, I'll pin a comment in there and I'll put links for at least, 40, 45 different titles that are coming out this week, just because I probably could have done 3 videos this week with as many great titles that are coming out. But I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to, clog up your YouTube feed with new release videos. So make sure you go down below and check out that comment and go through some of those great releases. I guess I should also add that if you follow the Vinyl Den Facebook page, every Tuesday before this video comes out, I typically post, anywhere between 20 and 35 new releases for that week. So it kind of covers a little more stuff that I don't get to on the video here, just because, like I said, I don't want to have a, 20 or 30 minute long video every week. So I try to keep it generally around 14, maybe 15 releases for the week. But I got 16 great ones for today. I think hands down the biggest release for this week is definitely going to be this Van Halen Collection 2 box set. We're finally getting all the Sammy Hagar era stuff from Van Halen. This is all newly remastered from the original analog tape. So you got, what do you got in here? You got 5150, you got OU812, For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, and Balance are the 4 big albums that are in this box set. And all those albums have been out of print for years and years and years. I know for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge and Balance, if you want original pressing of that, you're going to spend, I've seen people buy them for, $500 or $600 a piece. So it's great to get this box set. It's only going to run you about $120 online, which I think is a fantastic price for what you're getting in this set. This also includes a Rarities album from stuff recorded from 89 to 2004. So like I said, I think that box set is going to be a huge seller this week. I definitely have it on pre-order. I pre-ordered it the minute that it went up. So you got that coming out this week. And you've also got Roger Waters' The Dark Side of the Moon Redux. This is kind of a polarizing album, but this is one I'm actually kind of looking forward to. So this is Roger's 7th studio album. It's a double LP. There's multiple variants that are going to be available of this album. This is all done to celebrate the 50th anniversary of The Dark Side of the Moon, which in my opinion is the greatest album ever recorded. I know that, so this is like a stripped down, kind of reimagined version of The Dark Side of the Moon. Roger is on record as saying he's not trying to replace that original album, because it's something that it can never be done. He's just trying to kind of do something to kind of, like I said, to kind of celebrate the 50th anniversary of the release. I'm at least interested. I got this on pre-order. I did pre-order it when they went up, and it's something. I mean, I think the first single that came off it was Money, which I was not a big fan of. But I liked his version of Time. It's different. It's very different than what you're hearing on the album. I know he also did, I think Breathe was the other track that he's released so far. I haven't listened to that one yet. I'm going to hold off and listen to it on the entire album. Like I said, I don't want to say that I'm hating this album before I've listened to it. I know a lot of people already are saying that on social media. I'm kind of hold off judging it until I can listen to the entire thing. But I've definitely been kind of up and down on it so far. There's a bunch of great rap albums getting reissued this week. The first one, this is Eazy E, Eazy-Duz-It. First released back in '88. It's Eazy E's debut album celebrating its 35th anniversary. It's going to run you about $48 online. This was released about a month after Straight Outta Compton by NWA. And it's kind of like another NWA album. I think all the members of NWA are on this album. or at least were involved with the album. It's a great one though. It's I think it kind of rode the coattails a little bit of Straight Outta Compton. It's not up there. It's not as great of an album as that one is, but Boys in the Hood was like a huge track off this album when it was released. Charted really well. Sold over 2 million copies here in the U.S. It's it's pricey for an album though. I get it. $50 is a lot to drop on a single album. I'll if I can get it for under $40 somewhere eventually, I'll probably grab a copy of it. And then you got DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. This was first released in 1998. His debut album, celebrating 25th anniversary, also going to run you about $48 online. This is an album that, when it was released, it was just absolutely gigantic. This thing sold, well over 5 million copies worldwide, and charted really well. Rough Riders Anthem was a song that you just couldn't get away from when it first came out. And it, at least in my opinion, this is probably up there as one of the greatest debut albums in rap history. You also got a reissue of Hellboy by Lil Peep getting reissued this week. This first released back in 2016. It was his fifth and final mixtape before his death. And I love this album. It's interesting to kind of go through here because it's so many different things. This album, it's rap, it's rock, it's alternative, it's punk, it's so many different things all kind of rolled into one. And this is really kind of a genre redefining album for rap, and kind of like the emo rap stuff that was going on over the last 6 or 7 years. I think largely is because of this album. It's definitely one worth checking out. It's going to run you about $38 online. This is a double LP. I know I've seen it listed as red vinyl on some websites. Other websites don't really list a color, so I'm not sure if there's a black version out there and a colored version. But it's, like I said, if you're unfamiliar with Hellboy by Lil Peep and you're a rap fan, I definitely highly recommend checking that one out. You also get Ice-T, The Legend of Ice-T, Crime Stories. This is a new compilation that they put together. It's a triple LP. It's going to run you about $40. He's one of the pioneers of that like late 80s, early 90s gangster rap scene. Did a bunch of great stuff solo wise, did some stuff with Body Count also. This is a great compilation of stuff just really across his great career. The next one was one that I'm really interested in picking up, even though it's only 3 songs. It's kind of pricey, I think, for 3 songs, but I absolutely love this performance. This is Mac Miller, NPR Music, Tiny Desk Concert. This was recorded just a month before his death in 2018. It's going to run you about $28 online, which I said, like I said, I think it's a lot for 3 songs, but it's an incredible performance. If you go back through and stream it, I think it's still one of the most streamed Tiny Desk concerts from NPR. It really kind of showcased how great of a musician Mac Miller was. And it's really unfortunate that we didn't get to see his career fully take shape. I think he would have went on and done even bigger and better things than what he did in his really short career. I love a lot of his music. And then you've also got Joni Mitchell Archives, Volume 3, The Asylum Years, 1972 to 1975, coming out this week. This is going to run about $84 online. This is a quadruple album. This is a bunch of stuff that they kind of unearthed through Joni Mitchell's archives. I've been doing the series. Like I said, this is a 3rd volume of it, so 2 previous to this. I think this is probably her best period of her career. I think it's her most commercially successful period. I think some of her best work, her best albums came out over this time span. And a bunch of great stuff on here, though. You got live material from 72 and 74. There's demos, there's alternate mixes, there's a 40-page book also that comes along with it. And some really great guest musicians on here, too. You get people like Graham Nash, James Taylor, Neil Young are all included in here. Like I said, I think this is something that's probably geared a little more towards the pure or true Joni Mitchell fans, but it's one that's available on streaming. I'll definitely check it out. I think this next one's also going to be a big release this week. This is going to be, there's a standard release that I'm going to talk about now, and then there's also a blue version that's getting released for October. So a couple of different versions that's going to be available this week. But this is Stone Temple Pilots, Thank You. First released back in 2003. This is a greatest hits compilation. It's a double LP. Like I said, it's also being released as part of Rhino Records for October. This is stuff this is a greatest hits compilation from the band's first 5 albums. A bunch of great stuff on here. Of course, all the big hits everyone knows. There's also a couple of deeper cuts on here that I think that makes this release kind of worth owning. And then there's also two previously unreleased tracks. Obviously, been released now for 20 years. But at the time this album came out in 2003, 2 previously unreleased tracks are included on here. This is the first time it's ever been available on vinyl. It's going to run you about $33 online, which isn't bad for a greatest hits compilation. Even though I've got all 5 of these albums, I'll probably still pick this up just because I do love one of those 2 unreleased tracks that are on there is a great one. And at least for me, it kind of makes it worth owning. And then you get the self-titled debut album from Run the Jewels getting reissued this week. First released back in 2013. This is their 10th anniversary release. This is on split colored vinyl. It looks pretty cool. It's going to run you about $40 online. If you're unfamiliar with Run the Jewels, this is a great collaboration between Killer Mike and LP. Some really great stuff across their career. I really love this first album, though. This first album is absolutely fantastic. If you're unfamiliar with Run the Jewels, if you're a rap fan, it's definitely one worth going back and checking out because I think you're really missing out on some great releases. You got the new album from Darius Rucker coming out this week. This is Carolyn's Boy. This is his 8th studio album. Only 6 of them have been country, though. It's going to run you about $30 online. To be completely honest, I'm not the biggest country fan, especially when it comes to like newer country. I love some like 80s and 90s country music, but really nothing that's been released over the last 20, 25 years. But man, Hootie does some great country music. I love a couple of Darius's albums. I'm looking forward to this one. I'll definitely stream it when it comes out. There's already been a couple of singles that have come off of this album. They've both charted pretty well so far. So I think this is gonna sell pretty well. I think this is gonna be a pretty good album. And then you've got the reissue of True Blue by Madonna coming out this week. This was released in 1986. It was her 3rd studio album. It's gonna run you about $25 online. This is on silver vinyl. It's gonna be Amazon exclusive. So this is the follow-up to her gigantic hit, which was Like a Virgin, which was released 2 years before True Blue. This album was absolutely huge, though. This was not only the highest-selling album of 1986, it's also the highest-selling album by any female artist of the 80s. This thing sold well over 25 million copies. It was absolutely huge. And this was as good as Like a Virgin was. I think it was True Blue that really showcased how great of a musician Madonna could be and really kind of propelled her up to the superstar status that she had in the 80s. This week we have the next release from the Aerosmith Remastered series coming out. This is Draw the Line. First released in 1977. It was their 5th studio album. It's going to run you about $30 online. So far I've been thrilled with these remasters. I've got a couple of them. And comparing to my older pressings, there's not a huge difference sound-wise, but I think these new remasters do sound better. And Draw the Line, I know it's not their best album of the 70s, but I think it's one that often gets overlooked. There's some really good stuff on here. It's kind of an odd album when it comes to Aerosmith, though, because I don't know if it's just like the internal struggle within the band. They would break up a couple of years later, but I don't know if the internal struggle kind of had something to do with that or what. But it's definitely an album that is still good to kind of go back through and check out if you haven't listened to it in a long time. And then you get A Day to Remember for Those Who Have Heart coming out. This was first released in 2007. It's going to run you about $24 online. This is their 2nd studio album, and this is a reissue of the 10th anniversary release that came out in 2017. When this came out in 2017, it was all remastered at that time. And Day to Remember is one of those kind of bands that I think a lot of people kind of largely forgotten about. But this is a good album to kind of go back through and stream. I probably won't pick it up on vinyl. I don't think it's their best album, but it's still one worth checking out, I think. There's a pretty great jazz release coming out this week. This is Herbie Nichols Trio. First released in 1956. This is part of the Blue Note Tone Poet series, which I've loved. So many of these great releases over the last couple of years. This one's got to run you about $39 online. Herbie was one of the great jazz pianists of his era, and this album is an absolute classic. A great lineup he's got on here. But he's joined by Max Roach on drums, Al McKibben, and Teddy Kotick on bass. This is all remastered from the original analog tapes. This thing's going to sound absolutely fantastic. If you're a jazz fan, this is definitely an album worth owning, I think. And then the last one on my list this week, this is Meat Puppets, Up on the Sun. Very different from that jazz album. But this was released back in 1985. It was their 3rd studio album, newly remastered. It's going to run you about $20 online. This is a little more polished of an album than the first couple of Meat Puppets albums. And even though it's a more polished album, I still prefer Meat Puppets 2 over really any of their releases. And they're definitely an odd kind of band. They mix so many different genres together and blended so many things. Of course, Meat Puppets were, one of those bands that really influenced some really a lot of those like grunge bands in the late '80s, early part of the '90s, and it's a band that, like I said, is really interesting. I think a lot of people aren't gonna like a lot of their music, but some of it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, I think Meat Puppets 2, I think will always be their pinnacle, but this is a pretty good album in its own right. Well, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Like I said, a bunch of great stuff coming out this week. Definitely going to grab that Van Halen box set, that Roger Waters release. I got both of those on pre-order. I'll probably grab that Mac Miller. I'll probably grab that Lil Peep also. Huge week for new releases. But drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to picking up. Like I said also in the beginning, if you're unable to find any of these, I'll put links down below. And I'll put links down below for at least, probably 35, 45 different releases that are coming out this week, just because there's so many great things coming out. But let me know what you're looking forward to picking up. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.